I remember the sound before. I remember the pain, the bell, the roar, the breath that caught halfway between fear and faith. They said I didn't belong here. A woman, standing under the lights of a Manchester boxing ring, sweat dripping onto the canvas like rain on a headstone. But I wasn't fighting for their approval. I was fighting for him. My name is Grace Thompson, and before this moment, I wasn't supposed to be anyone. I was supposed to be quiet, polite, invisible, another face in the crowd, another story untold. But life has a cruel way of forcing you to stand up when you'd rather fall apart. Before the gloves, before the bruises, before the headlines, there was Daniel, my older brother. He was everything I wasn't: loud, alive, impossible to ignore. He had this way of lighting up a room even when there was nothing left to smile about. He wanted to be a professional boxer. He used to shadow box in our tiny flat in East London, the one that smelled like takeaway chips and rain-soaked carpet. I'd sit on the couch, pretending to do homework, while he danced around the living room throwing jabs at ghosts only he could see. He'd look over and grin. "Come on, Grace," he'd say. "1-2 combo. You gotta learn how to hit back." I'd laugh, roll my eyes, and tell him boxing was for blokes. He'd shake his head. "Nah, fighting's for anyone who's ever been told they can't." The day he died, London felt colder. It was one of those mornings when the city looked gray from the inside out. He'd been riding his bike to the gym, Holloway Boxing Club, when a lorry took a turn it shouldn't have. He was gone before the ambulance even arrived. The sound of my mum's scream still lives somewhere in my chest. It was the kind of sound that cracks something inside you that never quite heals. We buried him 3 days before his 24th birthday. I remember standing by his coffin, staring at the gloves they'd placed inside, red Everlasts, worn out at the seams. He loved those gloves. And that's when the thought came, sharp, uninvited, impossible to ignore. If I can't bring him back, maybe I can finish what he started. It sounded insane, even to me. I was a 21-year-old university dropout who'd never thrown a punch in her life. But grief makes you do strange things. It turns pain into movement. A week after the funeral, I walked into Holloway Boxing Club, the same place Daniel trained. The air smelled of sweat, leather, and second chances. Men paused mid-swing to stare at me. A girl, in trainers too clean, eyes too soft, heart too shattered. An older man, bald and broad-shouldered, looked up from the ring. "Lost, love?" he asked. I shook my head. "I'm here to train." He smirked. "We don't do fitness classes here. This is a fight gym. I'm not here for fitness." My voice cracked, but I held my ground. "I'm here to fight." Something in my tone must have caught him off guard, because his smirk faded. He introduced himself as Coach Harris, and from that moment, he became the reluctant architect of my madness. Training was hell. Every punch felt like a war against my own body. My knuckles bled. My ribs ached. My lungs begged for mercy. But pain had become familiar by then, and familiarity was comforting. Coach Harris didn't go easy on me. "Boxing ain't therapy, Thompson," he'd bark. "If you want peace, go light a candle." But every time I hit the bag, I saw Daniel, laughing, moving, alive. That was enough. Weeks turned into months. The men in the gym stopped staring and started nodding. Somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing me as the girl with the dead brother and started seeing me as a fighter. Still, outside the gym, the world wasn't ready. Promoters laughed when they heard I wanted to compete. "You? A woman? You'll break a nail before you break a nose." I'd smile and say nothing, because I wasn't fighting for approval. I was fighting for memory. My first amateur match was in Camden, in a gym that looked like it had been built out of broken promises. The fluorescent lights flickered. The crowd smelled like beer and doubt. My opponent was a girl named Rita Doyle. Fast, brutal, confident. As I climbed into the ring, I could feel Daniel's presence like static in the air. Coach Harris leaned in. "Remember what you told me on day one?" I nodded. "I'm here to fight." The bell rang. Round one. Her gloves hit like thunder. I stumbled. My vision blurred. Part of me wanted to quit. Then I heard it, faint but real. Daniel's voice, somewhere between memory and madness. "Come on, Grace. 1-2 combo. You gotta learn how to hit back." So I did. I hit back with everything I had. Grief, rage, love, all tangled into motion. By round 3, it wasn't just a fight. It was resurrection. When my hand was raised, I didn't feel victory. I felt connection. For the first time since Daniel's death, I felt like I could breathe again. Words spread fast. The girl from London who fought for her brother. Journalists called it tragic inspiration. I called it therapy with gloves. I started training harder. Early mornings in Manchester, where Coach Harris opened a new gym, Lions Corner Boxing Academy. I sparred with men twice my size, bruised ribs, fractured knuckles, but every drop of blood felt like proof that I still existed. By the time I was 25, I'd won 3 amateur championships, but something still felt unfinished, because the real fight wasn't about titles. It was about proving that Daniel's dream didn't die with him. There's a saying in boxing, the punches you don't see coming are the ones that knock you out. I used to think that only applied in the ring, but life, it hits harder. After my 3rd amateur title, everything seemed to shift. Reporters started showing up at the gym, asking for interviews. Brands wanted to slap their logos on my gloves. And for the first time since Daniel's death, my mom smiled. Really smiled. But fame is funny. It doesn't heal you. It just hides the cracks under brighter lights. One evening, after training, I stayed behind to clean the mats. Coach Harris was locking up when he stopped at the door. "You've got fire, Thompson," he said, "but you're still running from something." I froze. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "You fight like you're chasing a ghost." He was right. Every swing, every bruise, every drop of sweat, it wasn't just training. It was chasing Daniel through the fog of grief. But ghosts don't stay forever. That night I dreamed of him, standing in the ring, gloves hanging loose, smiling like he used to. He didn't speak, but I knew what he meant. "It's your fight now." When I woke up, I knew what I had to do. I applied for a professional boxing license. The board laughed at first. "Female heavyweights don't sell tickets," one of them said. "And besides, your story's nice, but the sport's a business." I remember standing there, hands shaking, trying to decide whether to cry or scream. Instead, I smiled. "Then I'll make it good business." It took 3 months, 2 appeals, and a public petition before they gave in. And when they did, I felt something shift. Not just for me, but for every girl who'd ever been told no. My debut fight was at York Hall, Bethnal Green, the cathedral of British boxing. Every seat was sold out. The lights burned down like judgment. The crowd didn't know whether to cheer or whisper. I could hear snippets. "She's doing this for her brother. She'll never last a round. Look at her. She's shaking." They weren't wrong. I was shaking, but it wasn't fear. It was electricity. My opponent was a veteran, Elena Petrova, a Bulgarian powerhouse with arms like concrete. When the bell rang, she came at me like a storm. Her punches rattled my bones, her hooks split my lip. But I didn't step back, because every hit reminded me I was alive. By round 6, something inside me broke, and then rebuilt itself in real time. I stopped dodging. I started driving forward. Right jab, left cross. 1-2 combo, Daniel's combo. Elena staggered. The crowd gasped. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was ours. When the referee raised my hand, I didn't smile. I just looked up at the ceiling lights, bright, endless, and whispered, "We did it." After that night, the media called me Britain's Ironheart. I did interviews, photo shoots, even commercials. But fame comes with a price. The more people watched, the more they expected. The more they expected, the more I feared disappointing them. And Daniel. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed, days when the weight of the gloves felt heavier than ever. And one day, during a live interview, I froze. They asked, "Grace, do you fight to prove women belong in the ring, or to prove your brother's legacy lives on?" I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know anymore. That night I walked alone through Camden Lock, the same place I fought my first match. The city lights reflected on the water, and I thought about giving it all up. But then I saw a little boy shadowboxing with his reflection. He looked up at me and said, "You're Grace Thompson, right?" My sister says you're why she started boxing. I smiled, the kind of smile that hurts because it's too real. And I realized something. This wasn't just about Daniel anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever needed a reason to get back up. 2 years later, I stood in the ring at the O2 Arena, facing the reigning women's champion, Clara Hodge, unbeaten in 11 fights, the biggest stage, the brightest lights, the loudest doubts. As the bell rang, the world went silent. Round after round, we traded everything: speed, power, will. Every punch Clara threw felt like destiny testing me, asking, "Do you still believe?" By the 8th round, my left eye was swollen shut. I could barely see, barely breathe. Coach Harris leaned in during the break. "You can stop now, Grace. You've already proved your point." I looked at him and whispered, "I'm not done proving it to myself." The 9th round began. Clara came forward, fierce and flawless. I ducked under a right hook and countered, left jab, right cross, uppercut. The sound of my glove connecting with her chin echoed through the arena. She stumbled. The crowd erupted. And then, silence. The referee raised my hand. I'd done it. After the match, I went home to East London, back to that old flat where Daniel used to train. His gloves still hung by the door. I picked them up, felt the worn leather against my skin, and whispered, "I kept your promise." The next morning, I donated my first championship purse to open a youth boxing program in his name, the Daniel Thompson Foundation, a place for kids who'd lost someone just like me, a place where pain could become purpose. Now, every time I walk into that gym, I see a dozen new faces, kids punching through grief, through fear, through doubt. And I know Daniel's still here, not as a ghost, but as legacy. If you'd told me years ago that a university dropout from East London would become Britain's first female heavyweight champion, I would have laughed. But life doesn't wait for permission. Sometimes it takes everything from you just to show you what you were meant to be. I didn't become a fighter because I loved boxing. I became a fighter because I loved someone enough to fight for them. And in the end, that's what legacy really is. Not the name they remember, but the fire you leave behind in others. You've come this far. Don't stop here. Hit subscribe and join a community that believes in second chances and real stories.